Hello world. Patricia O'Connor, and let's see if I can find the little scamp without destroying everything. Let's see. She's right there. She is. There she is. I saw her. Frida Reva Darcy here. And today I am a little excited. Maybe it's the weather. But this, as some of you know, is a tree I call Simply P. It was a box tree, and by box tree, I mean that it was bought at a bonsai store and at a bonsai garden, and I think it was Brussels, and it probably is about a 8 or 9 year old tree. It would have had some training. It wasn't given like some sort of top flight bonsai care. It is a box tree, which is to say that it would have started as a seedling with 1,000 others just like it, and somebody would have went in there and threw some wire to them, and then the next year somebody would have went to that table full of those seedlings and done X to them and then Y to them, and they would have all looked just alike as they marched their way year after year, going up in price, but not really ever getting any specific attention or personal attention or care, just some kind of general stuff that you would do to trees that you intended to pass along as training bonsai. So what this originally had was a little bit of movement to the trunk. You can see these roots here are exposed. So they did the groundwork. There was at least some amount of root work. There was some amount of wiring. The tree had this shape. It also, this was half of it. It also had a piece that came out that about this far and had another set of limbs that went straight up. And I coined the phrase sweet potato, which then became sweet pea, because I thought the tree looked like a sweet potato. And then once I did the trunk chop, I really liked the angle. I mean, I just kind of did that and hoped to improve the tree a little bit. But once I looked back at it, I was actually pretty happy. So today, I brought this tree in about an hour or so ago before I even knew I was ready to work on it. And the reason for that is it stopped raining for a minute, and I didn't want to go out there. I didn't want to go out there and get my feet wet. So I waited in between the storms and then just brought it in before I needed it. So I was also just kind of sitting there looking at it and going, yeah, we're going to do a repot to sweet pea. It needs a repot, and it doesn't look like it doesn't need a repot, but also it needs it a little bit more than it looks, because the last 2 summers I have been kind of dressing out the substrate on the top with other stuff. So so it looks like it needs it, and it needs it more than it looks. That's kind of what I'm saying there. Below this stuff that still looks like it's is kind of pliable and kind of rocky and kind of porous and all that. Underneath that, I would expect it to be a little bit more adobe like. So, so what I intend to do right now, I'm trying to collect all my little bio gold lumps off here. What I intend to do is to facilitate the first repot of what a tree I now call Simply P, and I think this is a good time to do it. Over the time that I've had this tree, I think I've improved it. I mean, yeah, I think I've improved it. That was the huge area I cut off. Maybe you can see the sparkle. Maybe you can't. I can see it shining back, glare where I am. That is the blunt end of a piece of wire that is buried way underneath the bark. Underneath this line that you can probably see, and underneath this line, probably the same piece of wire. And there's another one over here, and there's a line here, here, and here. Those are all buried wires. They never unwired the tree. They wrapped those around and allowed the trunk to overgrow them. And down there under the base of everything, the tree is still continuing to push out bark through that broken line, through that wire, and it's going to be deep enough that even when that wire is in the center of the tree, and it's no longer necessarily ever going to affect the bark on the outside, the bark underneath this line is deep enough that only loss of a lot of its bark and age would make that go away. So that's kind of there for life. That would be one drawback to somebody who's not necessarily. On the other hand, it might not matter to a lot of people. And what did happen because of that was the tree would squeeze out around those pieces of wire in the same way that if you had a rubber band around your wrist for a minute, you start to see your wrist expand before and after the rubber band. The same thing would happen if you put a bundle on there. And then a lot of times when you take those off, they will even back out some in the areas where they were obstructed, but the part where they got fat won't necessarily get smaller. So you can kind of fatten up a trunk that way. But this is also something this is something that I've since learned that I wouldn't have done to the tree. So that's going to, in my mind, keep it from being maybe a little less than perfect. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's a bigger thing than I even let on. Maybe that's less of a thing. But that's kind of what I know about this. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with the things that I've done to it. I believe that's probably the front. I love these roots and stuff. And what I'm thinking that I would really like to do today is we're going to cut the tree loose and we're going to break loose all the soil. I'm going to get over my soil phobia. I've got water standing by. I've got towels standing by. I can keep the roots moist. I'm going to break this down a little bit more than I normally would one of my pines, and for reasons that I'm pretty excited about. Here's what I would like to do. I would like to radically change the angle of Simply P. This is where they did root work. So as a person who is then taking on possession of something that up until now had been grown as a bonsai starter with options, it had like a dozen little shoots like what you see here. I had dozens to choose from. I had a whole nother half of a trunk to choose from. I could have sharied all of that and made some kind of weird spike out of it. I'm not there. Maybe someday I'll regret losing that opportunity, but I don't really see that. I'm kind of not. Anyway, this is fantastic, and I'm thinking that if I were to break all of this loose down and then have some loose roots that I could fan out a little bit more like this, I would make a mound with the soil and then change the angle from this to more like this with this mound of roots, exposing this layer and some of what's down there, wiring it into place. And then I have some sphagnum moss. I haven't drug it into the set yet, but for the sake of this video, I probably won't break camera down to drag that in and soak it. But when we get it what I want done, if it goes the way I would like it to go, now this is, this could be a bust. But if this goes the way I would like it to, what I will probably then do is take the root mass that we are going to be exposing to air that hadn't been exposed to air before, and I will surround it with like wet moss and wire that in or tape that in or string that in or raffia that in. I'll do something appropriate to make sure that that moss stays in place long enough for those roots to not feel overly exposed. And then as that stuff wears away on the outside, the roots will be exposed from within, kind of, as you water it and as, all that. Anyway, so that's kind of the idea. And I know that was a lot to take in, but I thought that rather than, I thought I would commit. I would tell you what we were up to and commit to it, and then we're going to see how this goes. So if I end up with something, bam, 3 kicks of the kick. So if I end up with something completely, absolutely, a million miles different than that, you're going to know because I already told you what we're doing, and I'm too lazy to start this part over. So with that, what I will do next. Also, last time I had that bigger. That tree is a prize, and so I was a lot more nervous about it. The part where we did it in the tub, this time we're gonna be a little bit more of a daredevil and just do it on a tray with a little garbage bag here. And I've got one end of the garbage bag pointed towards my little waste paper basket, so maybe some of that substrate will make it in there. This is also sitting on a tray, so hopefully you'll see me turn it on its side and rake it off. The idea is that the tray will catch it. And we're going to do the same thing that we kind of did to the big tree, except that I'm going to massively change the angle to this. I am going to really tease the roots out on this. I don't know how much I'm going to cut off because I'm going to expose some. And all of this will be more visible than what I did last time because part of the time, looking back, part of the time having that in that tub trying to minimize the mess meant that I was really cheating us out of an angle to see what was going on. Of course, you've seen people rake a pot out, and then the other part is I kept getting in the way of that. So this is going to be more exposed and more visible, and here we go. Also, I am going to reduce this a little bit before we get started. All right, leave that down. Go. There. Now, how does... All right, let's tip that down a little. Okay. All right, when it comes to shots, I think that's okay. Maybe, all right, we're locked off. That is static, as they say. A static shot. So, yeah. So as you can see, I was telling about this earlier, but I don't really think I'm divulging any huge bonsai secrets here. I'm just taking this and I'm going straight down with it. This pot, the other pot that the 75-year-old tree was in, that was a nice pot. This one is a little more of a training pot, I believe. It's a little deep, and the finish on it is a little different. It's not quite made to the same quality. However, this pot doesn't have a lip. The other one had a lip, and lips always make them harder to unpot. You have to, that's the little bit of extra soil that, sticks underneath that lip that kind of gets really solid underneath there. Sure makes it difficult sometimes to get your tree out. So I think about that. If I'm buying a pot and I see that it has a lip, I gotta really like it to keep looking at it after that. Not that I haven't bought a few pots with lips just because they were really nice, but that's something that I think about. They are, in my mind, always harder to repot, and I don't know. And I don't have the, I guess maybe I don't have the experience to know what the advantage is. And I'm just running that straight down. I'm dragging the end of this. I'm dragging the end of my root rake. Just scrape. I won't stop until I'm scraping the bottom of the ceramic pot. I think I already got it here. Okay. A little rotate. And then we're going to go back at it from this way. I haven't cut the wire loose from the bottom yet. I am pretty excited about the prospects of this. I don't know if I'm going to run across some obstacle that I'd never thought of, but my idea is to remove most of the substrate from the roots of this tree a little bit more than I normally have the nerve to do. And then, yeah, I know I'm touching those needles in the dirt, but I'm not really. They'll be okay. A little bit more than what I would typically do. But then I'm really looking forward to fanning them out. And then when I put the substrate in here, I'm going to put it in really sort of a mountain shape, not a mound, but by a mountain, you know, more of a peak. And then fan those roots out around it, and then wire that into place. And then if I have that pretty much going the way that I just described there, having changed the angle to something like what you see right now. Something like that, actually, except all those roots coming out of the back, like dreadlocks or something. I think that would absolutely be just, yeah, I think that would be the stuff. I'm excited about the possibilities of doing this, and I hope it works out the way I think it will. Which, this is kind of a gamble. I mean, I could have just said, let's see what happens on this, and then it could be a moment of discovery for all of us. But I kind of saw this in my mind's eye earlier, and went, oh yeah, let's try to do that. So I'm spilling the beans as to what I'm trying to do, and let's just see how close we get. You know, I guess if it's god awful, I won't show you. You see here, can you see that on the bottom? There's a little Z shape right here. I've done that before. You tighten the wires up here, you get that tight down, and then you look underneath it and it still feels a little loose to you. So you take your pliers and you grab the wires and then give it a twist. And that kind of, whenever I've done that, it was usually a sign that I thought I had it really tied up here, but I still had some slack down there that I wasn't using. And a little twist like that will take that right up. Or they might have been trying to ensure that they didn't crack the corners of their pot and just save that little twist till later. But I could kind of see what that was the second I saw it. Here are my Nip-X. I use these for cutting wire like you saw there, and also, oh, that guy's ready to just leap right out of there, and also for cutting branches that still have wire on them, because those Nip-X do not care. All right, do it this way, Patricia. Oh, I should have cut those wires off instead of doing that. So, Simply P has a pretty okay amount of the little microbes and stuff. So I'm pretty happy with that. Look at all those new roots down there on the bottom. I'm really happy. I'm really happy with that. So that's a good start. I'm pretty happy with everything that I'm seeing there. Let's Okay. I'll cut that back as soon as, okay. Now, I have never really had a minute to look at this pot. It's about what I would expect. It's about what I would expect to see. This is kind of a no name, probably Chinese bonsai pot. It's an attractive pot. I have no qualms about continuing to go back with this tree. I mean, with that pot. I think that'll be. It's got us this far, and I kind of like what it's done so far. Also, I got a new stash of little skewers here. First thing I'm going to do is take back these wires. I don't see them sticking up here, and since I didn't put those wires in, I don't really know. Where they join or if they join or what. So, just gonna take them there and there to get them out of our way a little. There you go, Patricia. But look at all these really pretty white roots. I would say sweet pea is a happy tree, is what I would say. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking sweet pea is a happy gal. No point in losing stuff in the substrate. So yeah, this is looking like better. This is looking good. I don't know what I was expecting actually. You know what I was expecting? I was expecting it to look pretty good because this tree has always responded well to where it is. And you know, even when some of my other trees were giving me problems, I was always, you know, I learned more from this tree than some of the others. One, it looked to me like kind of an orphan mutt. And while that made me want to do right by it, on the other hand, I didn't feel the pressure that I feel with the cork bark. So yeah, I mean that cork bark tree that represents 7 going on 78 years now of about 3 different people's time and investment in time, and whereas sweet pea was a little store bought farm tree, kind of like from a puppy mill or something, a bonsai, and but the improvements that I started making to this tree, the things that I did that I thought were improvements or that I still feel like improvements, really were encouraging. And it was the stuff that you was going, yeah, you absolutely made that tree better. Whereas my older tree was more of a finished product. It had no place to go but frankly down at the hands of an amateur, or I'll say this, an unsupervised amateur, right? So by having the nerve to lay hands upon this, I found that I could bring about more positive change, even at my level of expertise, than I would have thought. And and when things were going bad with some of my other trees, they were trying to tell me I was watering them too much or something like that. Sweet pea just kept right in there, just kept hanging right on in there, stroking along. It always had good color. I would cut the 12 branches down to the one main branch with 3 branches coming off of it that you see now. and it never slowed down. It just back butted and did all the stuff that you would expect a happy, healthy tree to do. So, um, I would say if you get a nice tree and you feel the pressure, to keep it nice, and you're like, man, what do I? Get one that's like it. That can be your guinea pig, right? Get one that you can experiment with. If you want to wire something and see how well that goes, that you can wire that without feeling like you're taking a chance on take a chance to make something better. When it's got room to when at your level you can see that it has room to improve. That's what makes it nice. Uh, when I cut the trunk off of this, that felt to me like sort of a there went our overhead lights and our outside must be almost 4:30 or so. That felt to me like a really really bold move. That on a finer specimen tree, I probably wouldn't have made a decision to do some styling change that would involve something that drastic. Uh, in fact, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have been something that this chop here wouldn't have been something I would have done to an older tree that had already, like surely. But maybe that just reflects, where I am now. Maybe 10 years from now, I'll walk through bonsai sales and look for that thing that will be so improved if only you took a hatchet to it, or what kind of. I see that. I see like on videos like Bonsai IQ, or also Kimmy, and also Ryan to that extent will take someone else's material and go, yeah, I just looked at it and kind of had the idea to do X, and then they tell you what they're going to do, and then they do it, and that's neat. Those my 2 batches of 10 pine trees that I purchased one right after another, and then repotted, and then threw all that wire in. I would say, for better or for worse, that probably Kimmy and Bonsai IQ, Kimmy Bonsai and Bonsai IQ, and also Bonsai Agency had more to do with my making that particular step. So that's been really positive. And having more than one tree that's the same species for me was good advice. And also joining a club was also really good advice. I think we're getting there. I finally found a screen. Oh, and there's some more wire. So yeah, we're gonna be doing this. We're gonna be at this a minute. That's okay. And I only put it that way because I feel like this would be the part where Pat would be checking her watch. Like if you're at a party and you're just kind of nervous or whatever, and you start looking at your watch going, yeah, okay, whatever. That's the part I'm kind of screen. That's the part I'm trying to work through. I'm used to things that live their whole life, maybe in a growing season. And so to go in and do the roots or do anything with the roots was usually a matter of trying not to have it go into shock. So if you could like go in and do something and have it not even know you were there, that was that was the mark of being good. That's what you wanted to do. If you threw something into shock, it would sit there in 2 weeks, at the most, sometimes 2 weeks, before it got its balance back. And during that time, all kind of screwy stuff can happen. So, short story long, I kind of had it in my head, and have had it in my head for a long time. When you do repotting stuff, be mindful of what you're going to do. Break it down into steps. Do those in order. Go through them as quickly as possible, and get the heck out of there. And that's not what this is. Yeah, that's not what this is. So, yeah. But this is starting to break apart nicely. We're going to look at all these roots we have. I'm going to be able to make stuff out of that, which is also the idea. Except these that are locked up in the mesh, they have to die. Is that roots or yeah, that was roots. Okay. All right, go right back in. Also, this doesn't quite have the bark issues that the older tree does. Somebody was asking me, watching the premiere, asking me, is the bark fragile? It is. There's a couple of places on the older tree that I my 75-year-old tree, and the same with my 19-year-old from seed tree. There are places on there where you definitely do not want to touch the bark. The money is in how thick the plates are when it comes, or it's not just the money, because it's not really about money, but the whole thing, the bling is in how thick those plates are. That is your indication of time, and it's not like a redwood or something where you're ever going to go through with some kind of really sharp device and maybe slice off all that bark and clean up your trunk. No, 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 no. You want all of that on there. Well, this guy being about 8 years old, it's starting to bark up some, but you don't see any on the limbs yet. So that's prior to 10-year-old tree. And then from 10 to 20, those limbs that you see, if they're around that long, they will start to get some bark on them as well. And then when that bark just goes right on down to the twigs and stuff, all of those are indication of years, if not decades. So, yeah, this is about a 10-year-old tree. It probably had a pretty good sized sacrifice branch on it at one point, and was probably on a very, very large table, maybe in a colander or something, with dozens upon dozens of other little pine trees that look pretty much just like it. But what we've done to this, and here's what they did. They gave us so many options. Like I said, the branch you see here, picture 12 of those coming out. The week I got it, I probably removed 8 branches because I couldn't even think with all that stuff. I'm like, what? It looks like roots coming out of a muddy sweet potato. It's exactly what it looked like. And I couldn't even see a bonsai tree in there, or let alone a snooty Japanese black pine. They're not snooty, but they've got their reputation, It's like, flaunt it if you got it, I guess. So I'm just still continuing to break up this stuff. I'm not trying to get too nuts about it. There's a lot of bark in here. Yeah, you can see all this stuff. I'm going to be able to make something out of that will keep the tree alive, and I will also be able to use to make a mound underneath there, so that I can, I think this is going to work. I'm very hopefully optimistic at this point, and this is not something that I've done before. So we're actually going to see if I can think of something and execute it, or people who have done this a dozen times are probably could very well be cringing, going, "Oh man, she's not that, Patricia." I think it's going okay. I'm going to give us that. I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt and say, so far, I don't see anything that's going to hang me up. If there's something going to hang me up, and there always could be, at this stage in the game, I am not seeing it. I don't know what it would be. This soil is breaking up fairly easy, but I'm not going too nuts about it either. Okay. Just kind of give it, the little tickle or whatever, and let all that stuff that I've been chopping up that's inside there have a way out. Let that all fall away. See there? All right. At some point, I will comb this out, but we're not there yet. That's not really where we're at yet. There's not a lot. There's pretty good root work. I would say there's some pretty good root work happening on this tree up until now. I'm not finding. There's something over here, but that probably grew in the last couple of years. There's not a lot of hardwood down in there. Pretty happy with all of that. Gonna need to break it down more here and in here. Just using my fingers works good. This is still loose enough. There's that area dead center underneath the tree. That's kind of that hollow cavity. My fingers work pretty good for clearing all of that. It's not as hard packed as some of the other stuff was. Get that to go this way. I can also I think feel better how much pressure I'm putting on these roots with my fingers than I could through a skewer or a chopstick. So today, weather-wise, was so bizarre. I shot a little 3-minute short, because I saw a cloud burst that I thought was kind of interesting, and I thought I would share that with you. And not even a minute in to trying to drop that while it was downloading, another one came and was even harder, with thunder and lightning and the whole 9 yards. And then it started to hail. So I had never seen that in the time that I've been here before. That was kind of interesting. And to note, the hail was coming pretty much straight down, and all of my trees were covered enough by the eave that only the stuff that hit the rail, the part of the rail in front of them, some things would like bounce up. Some fragments of hail would bounce up, and I don't think we lost a leaf or a twig over it. But today we saw rain, we saw drizzle, we saw hard rain, we saw thunder, we saw lightning, and then for a few minutes we actually saw hail. Yeah, all hail. So this would be the part where I would normally not even mess with this, but I do want to keep a lot of this. more than normal for reasons. Okay. All right, let's see what we have here. So that's what I'm, so that's kind of what I'm wanting to do there. Okay. Here. This is the job for stainless scissors. Okay. Just notice I didn't take off hardly anything. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So next to me I have a plate with all the tools in it, and I'm laying the tree gently on its side there while I'm going to do something that is, doomed to fail, dare I say. So at my feet is my waste paper basket. At one end that sits, and no, I'm not going to try to rake that off in the waste paper basket because that would be futile. I'm going to try to do something crazier than that. I'm going to try to grab the ends of that bag and stuff the whole thing in the waste paper basket. And I decided to tip the camera down because why would I cut you out of this? I mean, this could be, God knows what's about to happen. But if this came out okay, if this part, I mean, it's not going to kill me if it's going to make a mess. Again, that's not going to kill me. But if this comes out okay, this is going to completely transform the set. So far, so good. But it's a little like when you try to slip one garbage bag that looks a little iffy inside another. There comes a point where you think, oh, yeah, I got this. And then, boom. All right. Yeah. Can live with that. Now, that's our bonsai pot. That again is our little bonsai pot. Let's do this. There we go. And we're going to do a little. There we go. So this needs cleanup, and it doesn't need a lot of cleanup in here. In other words, I don't see anything growing, so I'm not worrying about the inside. When we're done, I'll probably give it the baby oil treatment like I've done the others. Right now, I'm taking my hemp broom and I am sweeping. I'm just sweeping it out the inside over my little waste paper basket. All right, that's got us back. That's got us back there. I'm happy enough. I'm happy enough with that. So those are a couple of screens. Those, I don't know how those were wired down before. I didn't see their wire before. I just found them halfway up the root bed. I'll assume that they just, things kind of shift. Maybe the tree ate the wire. I don't know. They might have just set those down on the bottom of the pot and then covered them up with substrate. and not used wire because I don't think I removed any wires from them that was for them. The only wire I removed from them was the one that was holding the tree down. So now I've got a little bit of this stuff, and I'm just going to wire those screens in like I think they should go, and then we'll keep going from there. Let's see, do this. I probably wouldn't use these bolt cutters to cut this little flimsy wire, but all the rest of my tools have a tree sitting on them. So I need to kind of be cool for a second. All right. Let's see how big those, we can get away with that. Sometimes I do the little frog foot thing where you have a circle on one end and a circle on the other. We're not doing all of that now. I think I need to make that a little tighter. Here we go. This is just going to be a staple, basically. A staple shape. Staples, yeah, we got that. It'll go something like that. Just that's all we're doing. Nothing too fancy. Nothing too fancy, schmancy. Let's see, do this. And then do that. Okay. Oh, come on, Pat. So hopefully this will be pretty cool. And I will have, you know, my idea is that when we, I would say the first day when I started knocking back those branch selections, that I was already starting to try to improve sweet pea, but that remains to be seen. But I would say when I did that trunk chop, that was us deciding on pretty much deciding what sweet pea's profile was going to be from, you know, pretty much from then on. And I believe that was an improvement, and I got a lot of confidence from that. That kind of led to what we're doing today. It's like when I saw that as a possibility, and I'd been talking to y'all on some of our smaller pines, I went, so far what's lacking with me is my root work, and we're going to start working on that next. But I didn't really think about. I thought about it more in the terms of trying to take those little seedlings and making their little plugs be all they can be. See that? Now, if I had a big grinding wheel, I might could just set that down and go, yeah, and even it up. But we've got a short leg somewhere, and the other three would have to take the brunt to straighten that out. Okay, so that's got us. Now we have our screens, and now we have our pot swept out. It still looks a little muddy, but that's okay. We're not worried about that. We will sweep it out later. Now, I think I already spilled the beans on this. I'm intending to mound this soil up fairly high and then fan those roots out and then tilt the tree way forward from what we've had it in the past. So it's going to get, I may have to play with this a minute until I actually kind of figure out. Well, you're kind of already doing it now. Look at all that dust. That's a lot of dust. Maybe if I do, we know we're going to water that dust out of it, but I don't like seeing that much dust pour out of the bag. I don't do that. That's not it yet. We still have a good amount of substrate in there. So, You want more? You want more than that? I think I do. I think I do. I think I do. Yeah. One more. One more. Boom. Boom shakalaka laka. Oh, Pat. Oh, Pat. You know what we did? Do you know what we did? I think we forgot something. Yeah, we did. I wired in the screens. I forgot to run the wire on the bottom. So by the time I get through shaking around the bottom enough to get this wire in there, I will have wrecked that. And that looked kind of like what I wanted it to look like. But you know what? This isn't my first sandcastle. I bet I can do that again. Again, when making bonsai videos, cut the wire three times longer than you actually need. That'll keep you from ever ruining the shot. Plus, cheap. It's just not a good look. All right, boom. Man, that looked so cool before I did all of that. That was not what I wanted to do there. What are you going to do, Patricia? I'm going to have to pour that back in and start over. Really? Yeah, I think so. Not all of it, probably most of it. Okay, not all of it. There you go. No harm, no foul. Could probably work with that without doing too much damage. And more than that. Really? It did. This one kind of did itself. All right. Now. Pull that up tight. This way. And that way. Now let's have a little look at the bottom. See that big lasso down at the bottom? Pull that up. So I thought I was pulling it tight. And then once I looked at the bottom, there was still that much. It was still that slack. All right, now that's going to be fairly tight against the bottom. Yes. When I tighten that up, that will be fine. Now, we can mound this up a little. And it was about this point that we started building our little empire last time. Not discouraged. So last time, or not last time, one thing the guys that had done at Brussels was they had wired the trunk, they had put motion in it, they made it so that whoever bought the tree would have a lot of choices as to what the front and the back was. Whoever had that as a bonsai tree would have lots of choices as far as how many branches there were. So while they weren't going all out in the absolute care and styling of the tree, the point probably wasn't at that stage of the game to do to give you a lot of free styling for your money, but to give you enough choices where you as the beginner would have enough, would have enough branches and trunk space and root work that it could be anything you wanted it to be. And whenever I started thinking about the root work that I'm wanting to progress forward on today, and was watching videos at that, I looked over at Sweet Pea and I went, I wonder how well defined those roots are going to be. We can see that big ball of roots. That can be anything. I could lay that in its position that it is now. I mean, just picture the tree we started with. I could lay that on its belly and raise it up a bunch and tease out those now exposed roots, and then cover them up with some moss to keep them moist and growing and happy long enough to thicken up and bark over and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited about all of this. Pretty excited about everything except where I just had to dump the soil out, and I'm already over that. So yeah, all good. Also, doing it this way, I can make it pile up a little steeper, I think, rather than just kind of dumping it out. Like I just dumped it out there and took off some of it. All right, that is a place to start. Now, cameo from Mr. Mister. Okay. Let me look. What's the front of the pot? We're going to say that's the front of the pot. Why, Pat? No reason in particular. It's a cheap pot. Both sides are probably very much one pretty much like another. That's the idea. That's the idea right there. Let's do that. I'm trying to be really careful with all of this, but it's not the most. This is not the most fragile bark work in the world. In other words, this stuff hasn't gotten years and years and years of plating to it that every time you touch it, it's, by comparison, the other tree, think of something that's covered in potato chips. Oh, and you don't want to break the dang potato chips because it's a valuable potato chip collection. Yeah, it's kind of what, by comparison, that's a little closer to what some of that other stuff is like. More so. Okay. All right. That's what I'm calling. Is that enough? I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. I'm gonna cinch it up a little tight to make the alteration that I want to make here without snapping some. I mean, I could have, but I don't want to take any chances on that, y'all. Okay, the idea is I'm going to bend all of this like this. So, Yeah, that. That's us. Where are we at on the edge? We're pretty close to the edge there. Now let's slide that over here. Now let's do that. So I'm thinking that, y'all. See if you can elbow the camera when you do that too. That just adds to the sense of adventure every time you smack the camera with your elbow. All right, we're gonna cut back some of those long wires before Patricia pokes an eye out. Okay, we're pretty okay with the way that went. A little bit more. There we go. So far, this is not going badly at all. I am seeing the idea I had pretty much. I am seeing the idea I had. I'll say it that way. All right, let me move my water bottle and we'll start adding a little bit more. At this point, the adding the substrate thing is going to get a little out of hand. For those of you who are squeamish about crazy housework, you may want to look away. This substrate's going to go everywhere. That's kind of what I'm saying. Spoiler alert, we're about to start making some serious messes here. I'm no longer having to support that either. That's good. Okay. We are taking Simply P to a whole nother level. I sorely believe. And it's not enough to take it to a whole nother level. I would say we're taking it to a whole nother level in a positive sense. Because on the other hand, killing the tree could also be described as taking it to a whole nother level. Yeah. But you see how much of a mess we have back here to work with. That's where, is that still in frame? Just barely. Drag the tree back. That hanging over. Almost, but not quite. All right. So that's the back side of the work area, or it's almost like saying the back side of the kitchen. The part that nobody typically sees. I'm pretty lucky. I would say most of my trees do not have a very, very obvious back to them. It's like to look at a tree, I turn it around and try to see what I'm going to see on the other side. And I could probably see at some point seeing myself, going, oh yeah, I really love that tree, but Jesus Christ, the backside, that's going to have to. But so far, I haven't had a tree that's so stellar on one side that I'm just kind of letting it fly on the other. My cork bark oak looks good from all angles. Both of my older Japanese black pines, I think, probably look pretty good from all sides. I would say that my trident maple has a nice, it needs its work too, but it's the same pretty much one side to another. It's not any less a little too long or something. on one side than it is the other. So yeah, that's kind of the point there. A lot of my trees are, so far, a lot of my trees can be viewed at either angle without. My cork bark does have one side. There is a side that's bowing to you, but I don't think the other side is not a jip at all, you know? So I should probably start thinking about some sort of staple or something. That's the thing. We're trying to expose. Stop just pouring dust on there, Pat. We're trying to cover up these roots that are ultimately going to be a mound of exposed bark-like roots, but right now we want them to behave well enough to be manageable. So I guess I can maybe start seeing if I can fire some of this stuff in there, or chop some of this stuff down in there a little bit. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. So that's pretty much my idea there. This guy, that guy's already pretty much hardened off. That would have been nice to have been able to, maybe if I kind of give that one of those and comb this out. Yeah, I probably could have done more to comb this stuff out than I did too. It should like this. It has really responded well to being fed. Probably got fed a lot where it was. At the nursery, it probably got fed quite a bit. You know, some kind of regular interval things. All of this needs to be covered up. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got our soil down in the container the way. And I'm still just continuing to kind of mound this up a little and trying to hold all these guys down. It would be nice if I can maybe do this, Patricia. Okay. All right. Who is it? Yeah, I put all that dust in there. Yeah, I'm going to be watering, flushing all this dust out for a solid 20 minutes, kind of at the end of my mix here. At the end of my mix. It's all good. It's a good mix. Don't want all this stuff to get overly dry. Yeah, today was a heck of a day when it comes to weather. We were having some pretty wild stuff, and that wasn't, you know, I think today was supposed to be not all of that. You know, we're when you look at the weather radar, it shows us to be in between. In between what? Because it was coming down like nobody's business. But yeah, pretty exciting. It wasn't boring. It wasn't a boring day off in the living room. All right. I am not quite done yet. I've got some more. At this point, I'm just going to be adding substrate to places where I'm going to see what it'll take, you know, and then, yeah, that is kind of what I wanted to do there, and that's kind of what I needed to do here. This would be a good time to start seeing how the moss can play out and help us out here. Keep those covered a little better would be great. Okay. She's reaching for the stainless. Twist, release, twist, release, twist, release. Goodbye. Yeah. In there, okay, except for the thing that I always do, which is fuss with it for another 30 minutes after the video's over. I'm sorry, I bet we all do that. I bet we all do that. This is about done. I'm thinking this is it. What I will do next is take it out to the bench, water that half a ton of dust out of it, and start digging through my bags and pull out some moss and set some moss to soaking so that I can apply it here, and that'll just be for a little while. It won't be on there for a ton of time. I just want to make sure that all of these roots here that were underneath the soil this morning won't have everything washed out from under them and then die back. And then in a minute, we're about to take some sort of utensils to all of those branches. What I see me doing with those is possibly putting lanyards or putting loops on them and then twisting them up. I want to pull this closer to the trunk. I'll probably pull these guys in closer to the trunk too. Not a good time to go yanking on it. I'd like for these roots and all and this soil and everything to settle in. Feel pretty good about the last little bit of wiring I did there. Good little squeeze on that. I don't want all this substrate going everywhere, so I don't want to mess with it any more than that. But that's kind of what we did there. Here is the next evolution of Simply P. Like I said, what I'll do next is move those branches to where they're not now going straight down and straight up. We'll probably pull this one back. I could have done that with my other hand or around the other way. And then we'll pull this one back in like this. And yeah, that area will be a little full. We'll see how it likes out. And we'll pull that one in. And then maybe if we might just make a decision on those and lose one or two of them. And this is simply us from the other way. I'll pan over and kind of get her back in the center there. And that's us coming from the other way. And you can see all of our roots there, and that's just going to go, oh yeah. Loving it all. So yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm pretty happy with that, yeah. Maybe if I were to do that, I think you can see the tree. I think you can probably already see the tree I have in mind. But it will be we're going to be doing that, right? And then, I mean, I'm just a step to the junk drawer away from throwing a zip tie on that right there and calling that snuff. But that's what we'll be doing there. And the bottom one will come back into here about the same amount. I just don't really have to do that right this very second. This was a good place to stop, and then that'll be a good place to add another one later. Thank you so much for watching. This was a great way to spend the afternoon. It's kind of a weird color sky right now. It's kind of hard to tell. I think that might be the closest thing we've had. Give it a second. That's still overcast, but that's as closest thing as we've had is the blue sky in the last 15 days, and our weather report is not going to improve. We're in for more of this stuff for the next, the next 10 days. It just goes right off the chart. More rain, rain. So yeah, that's what's going on with us, but we're still moving forward and we're still doing our pine tree work, and I'm really happy with the way that came out. I'm really looking forward to watching all this stuff go and create mass to that trunk, and it's going to flare out the base quite a bit. Our base is going to be like that now. I'm pretty excited about that. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. We've been a little prolific here during the rain. I've been doing more shorts of rain. But that's all good. And our next drop will probably be our, maybe our Friday drop. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm pretty excited about the work we've done the last 2 days. Have been pretty. I'm pretty excited about it. Thank you. Thanks for watching.